Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Howdy Partner. I am Simon Panek. I'm a Partner Solutions Architect on the Scale org team. And today we get to meet our partners, Antimetal. For those of you who haven't been with us in the past, Howdy Partner is our weekly Twitch show where we bring on a partner to share with us their new, exciting, or otherwise useful validated solution. Before I get too far ahead of myself, though, I'd like to bring on my co-host for today, Pyone Thant, and allow her to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Pyone. I'm also a Partner Solutions Architect here at AWS, and I'm also in the same team as Simon. Hi everyone.
Thanks for joining, Pyone. And today we get to introduce some interesting partners from Antimetal, and they're going to be doing some stuff to do some demonstration of their solutions. And it really has a lot to do with cost optimization. And frugality is something that is a really important factor to us here at AWS, and we impress that upon our partners and customers as well. Pyone, how do we go about doing that typically?
So we have something called a well-architected framework, and it is a framework that AWS has developed to help cloud architects build secure, high-performing, and resilient infrastructures for a variety of applications and workloads. And one of the pillars is called a cost optimization pillar. And what it does is that it focuses on avoiding unnecessary cost. So some of the key topics of the cost optimization pillar are understanding spending over time, controlling fund allocation, selecting resources of the right type and quantity, and scaling to meet business needs without overspending.
Excellent. Yeah, like I said, it's something that's really important to us because we want to be able to provide the best business outcomes as possible at the lowest possible price point. So our partners today are going to offer a solution that's going to help you do that for yourself and your AWS accounts. Now, before we get too far ahead and bring them on, I'd like to just check with our audience on Howdy Partner here. We always like to know where everybody's coming from. I see we got somebody in there from New York City. I myself am currently in Bellingham. I'm 2 hours north of Seattle. Where's everyone else from? If you can just drop it in the chat. I know that we have viewership from all over the world, so it's interesting to see where everybody's from.
Pyone, where are you? Someone from Texas in the chat.
Nice. Yeah, looks like New York Metro. Nice. Plano, Texas. Awesome. Phoenix. Okay, we're getting multiple points on the map. We'll go ahead and keep throwing those in. And while you're doing that, I'm going to invite on stage our partners for today. So welcome, Shreyas, Iyer, and Luke Button. Luke, if you'd like to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Simon and Pyone. I'm Luke. I'm head of growth here at Antimetal and excited to be talking about AWS savings. Obviously, it's something that we do a lot of here at Antimetal. We're passionate about and excited to be sharing that with all of you today.
Awesome. And Shreyas, how about you?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Shreyas, one of the co-founders and CTO here at Antimetal. Here to just share with you what we do at Antimetal, how we achieve and help our customers with cost savings, and more generally, how you can save on your AWS costs.
Excellent. Well, before we get into your actual solution, do you mind if we do a little bit of background? Like, where did Antimetal come from? How did both of you join the team? What's the backstory?
Yeah. Glad to jump in there. So my co-founder Matt and I met about a year and a half ago. Basically, when I was in college, my first kind of internship was a DevOps intern at this big insurance tech company. And there, a huge part of my job was cost optimization. And it was like really monotonous, right? I would go into their AWS account, see what resources were underutilized, go and turn them off or alert someone, hey, this is, you should resize this, whatever it is. And frankly, just realized like cost optimization is a really human problem. My co-founder Matt came from a more operational background, had worked at a bunch of other startups, and he just saw, cloud costs were always the biggest line item on their balance sheet, and no one really thought about, okay, what can we do to solve this? It was kind of a given, hey, you have to pay that cloud bill, and there's not much you can do about it. And obviously, us going into AWS and seeing that there are a variety of price points, we basically thought, hey, A, not a lot of people know about this, or B, even if they do, it takes a lot of time for them to execute this properly. And so that's why we built Antimetal as basically this one-touch solution for people to optimize their AWS costs. And then Luke, you want to talk a bit about how you joined the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to Antimetal, I actually founded my own startup. And one of our highest costs was AWS. And we were a fintech. We had skyrocketing AWS bill. And we looked into the space, and there was no tool that really addressed our needs well. There was a lot of different tooling on AWS that tried to do everything, but did nothing well. And so when I went to Antimetal team and they said, we're trying to do cost optimization, savings for AWS and be very focused on that, not trying to, build this all-in-one solution for AWS. It really caught my eye. And then I, got to know the team more. And I think what we're building here at Antimetal is actually very different from what else is in the space, given the fact that so far we've been able to, and I think the team is really dedicated on being very focused on one thing, that is finding savings for the customers and working closely with customers to hear their problems, incorporate that into the product and build a solution that really puts savings first and foremost and doesn't try to really check all the boxes for partners. So I think that's what's really special about Antimetal is that if you are an AWS and you're looking to get the highest savings rates possible, Antimetal is the best on the market. And I think that will stay that way for a long time.
Nice. Definitely excited to hear more about it and how you accomplish that. It might seem counterintuitive that AWS really pushes cost optimization in that it reduces costs for our partners, our customers. But what we've seen is that in the long run, it's beneficial for everyone if we can be very optimized in our actual spend. It's good for AWS, it's good for the partners, and it's good for the customers. So yeah, definitely a topic we're interested in hearing more about. That said, would you like to begin your portion of the presentation and give us some more details about Antimetal?
Absolutely. So I guess what would be helpful is, just to run through a quick agenda so everyone listening knows what we're going to cover today. But I'd like to start out with discussing the problem in the space, rising costs in AWS, how to control them, what we do here at Antimetal, then give a quick overview of the product and actually demo you through the product so you can see the product for yourself, what that looks like, and then wrap up with discussing roadmap, where we want to go from there. And if there's any customer feedback or anyone listening has any feedback, would love to hear that. And then to end, go into Q&A. We're here to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, and along with that note, we really do want this to be interactive. So yeah, if any of you in the audience have questions throughout, please drop them in chat and we'll bring them up on screen.
Yeah, amazing. That'd be great. Yeah, so Shreyas, do you want to jump into kind of the bigger trends in the space, really the dynamics behind Antimetal and why we've been so successful so far and why we're really betting on cost optimization into the future?
Yeah, definitely. So going to kind of go on a history lesson here just to start, because I think the story kind of plays out from the beginning of the cloud. But, around 2008, we kind of saw this dawn of the cloud. Things kind of really kicked off in 2011. And, historically, you see these examples like companies like Netflix who migrated to AWS and, adopted this microservices approach. And that was a really big deal at the time, to have someone move to the cloud. And so basically what we've seen is this trend over pretty much the past decade or more, where there's increased cloud spend, increased migration to the cloud. A lot of people are moving off-prem. And, if you basically look across the last decade, we've pretty much been in, a bull run where cloud spend has kind of been increasing quite significantly. People are migrating faster and faster to the cloud. But the focus has largely been on scalability, not cost. And especially, for startups, we are obviously a startup, and I know a lot of people in the space. Focus has been on how can you grow and your products as fast as possible.
It sounds like maybe we're losing your feed.
Yeah, I think we lost Shreyas there for a second. My apologies. But yeah, to continue on that trend, as he's saying, over the last 10 years, from roughly 2011 to 2020, we saw this trend across the space where most companies were looking to build very scalable infrastructure, and rightfully so. But there was very little focus on cost optimization and the well-architected framework that you, Simon and Pyone, mentioned at the beginning. Most startups were just like, hey, we'll figure it out on the fly. And so when we saw the market beginning to turn the last couple of years, what really happened there was all of a sudden, all these startups, these enterprises that had actually reached pretty significant scale. So startups, Series D and above, were looking to reduce their costs on AWS. And they were struggling really across the board to find solutions, find ways to do that. From just changing their architecture fully to working with solutions like Antimetal to make that happen. So part of the reason why we actually started Antimetal was looking at this trend. We believe that cloud computing is going to really stay around and actually become a much bigger factor. I think there's a lot of a market that it can grow into, but cost optimization generally and building with cost in mind is going to be a trend that sticks around and continues. This is kind of the first bear cycle, so to speak, with cloud compute. And I think going forward, most companies will really keep that in mind. So Shreyas, you're back. Do you want to, jump in here?
Yeah, sorry guys, my internet cut out for a second. But yeah, I think generally what we've seen is, like Luke probably characterized pretty well, this rapid adoption of the cloud. And with that, obviously, a lot of people move to the cloud for cost savings, but particularly people that are building in cloud native applications, I think cost had not been in the forefront of their mind, and now there's pressure from investors, customers, shareholders, whatever it is, to cut costs. And a lot of times your cloud bill is, one of the biggest items you're spending on. And there are a variety of ways to save. And so I think now it's not just people saying, hey, we knew about cost optimization, we want to implement it. A lot of people today are just discovering, oh, there are a variety of different ways for you to save on your cloud bill, whether it's through, different savings instruments or right sizing infrastructure, things like that. And so there's a lot of discovery happening here, and there's more rapid adoption of this more cost conscious culture, which like Luke mentioned, we feel pretty strongly is going to stay, even when the market turns up again and things kind of go back to normal.
Yeah, I think all of that really sets the stage for Antimetal and why we really see that this market continuing into the future. People focusing on costs and building with a well-architected framework, with building with costs in mind. And I'm sure if you work on AWS or on the AWS team and working with customers, that everyone over the last 6 months and continuing forward for the next 6 months to hopefully years is going to really be building with that in mind. So Shreyas, do we want to jump into the deck here and give an overview of Antimetal?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I will share my screen. So can everyone see my screen?
Looks good.
Fantastic. Yeah, so this is our deck. We'll be walking you through the Antimetal, and at the end of this presentation, we'll have questions that you can answer. So if anyone here has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat right now, and we'll stop to answer those, or save it to the end, and we'll get right back to you then. So we're happy to answer those and really make sure that if you have any questions about what we do, that we clarify. So Shreyas, can you give an overview of Antimetal, the product, and what we offer?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, here at Antimetal, what we do is help you leverage the savings instruments that exist on AWS in the most risk-free manner possible. And so just to run through what's on the slide here, and then provide some more color. Basically, what we are doing is looking at the usage of a variety of different resources. How stable are they? What kind of auto scaling rules do you have? How often are they being triggered? That sort of stuff. And so what we're doing is removing that forecasting, evaluation of risk, and all that work that is generally done by a human when you're doing cost optimization, and completely automating it. So you get this dashboard that tells you, hey, we've looked at your infrastructure, and here's what we think is stable. We've looked at your resources. Here's what we think you can make the right cost optimizations that are less risky as compared to others. Obviously, you don't want to make a long-term commitment on something where you're running it, say, once a day when you have high traffic in the morning or something like that. The second thing here is, automation. We realize this is a human problem, and the main thing that Antimetal drives here is complete automation of this process. We've built this product. There's no human intervention involved. You connect your AWS account, or rather, we connect your AWS account via very light IAM role. And we look at the resource metadata in your AWS account and make our recommendations based off that. The last two things here, our pricing model is performance based. we only charge you a very small percentage of the fee of what we help you save. So, the incentives are aligned for both of us. You as the customer, the more we save you, the more we make in revenue. So, it's in our advantage to save you money, and that's how we make money as well. And the last thing here, just alluding to what I said to you before, the IAM role that we place on your account only looks at resource metadata. It doesn't see sensitive information, say on your EC2 instances on what kind of jobs are you running, or it doesn't allow us to access images or snapshots, or even your RDS data. You can't see back, don't have access to KMS encryption keys, whatever it might be. So all we're looking is generally what types of instances are you running, how long running are they, and what kind of rules are there in terms of scaling up and down, because huge benefit of the cloud is scalability and elasticity. So we cannot modify your instances, we can't access your code, we can't change network traffic or any private data, and for that matter, even if we give you recommendations on a particular instance, we can never turn that instance off or change it or affect it in any way. So very light, we're basically only accessing your account at the billing layer. And just to be more specific in what we're offering and what we're suggesting, mainly we're giving recommendations on reserved instances and savings plans. And just to provide some more color there, what are reserved instances? It's a 1 to 3 year commitment to a particular instance type. And the idea is you can get up to 75% off on that instance type by making this commitment. We'll get into this a bit more, how we kind of de-risk that commitment, but we also do savings plans, which I'm sure a lot of people here are familiar with, where you effectively commit to a certain amount of spend and get a very similar discount. So what we're doing is looking at your spend, looking at your usage, and determining which commitments make the most sense for you to roll into and save the most amount of money.
And before we go on here, as I know Shreyas mentioned, our security outlook, and we are SOC 2 Type 2 certified, and that's really important to us, as obviously your AWS account is very critical to your company, and there's information there. We cannot access that information, but we've taken the steps to make sure that we're really following the best security protocols across the board. And also, as Simon mentioned at the beginning, we are an AWS partner. We're an ISVA. We are, co-selling with the AWS reps, and so that's something that we really want to increase and build on in the future. So on to the next screen.
Not to interrupt, but Shreyas brought up the reserved instances and savings instruments. So just wondering if anybody in the audience has implemented these previously, and if you can share your experience with us. I'm going to let Shreyas continue, but go ahead and drop those in the chat, and we can bring them up, talk about them.
Perfect. Yeah, so the second slide kind of dives into more of how we make our recommendations, as Shreyas mentioned at the beginning, and how we de-risk these recommendations at the end. And at large scale, our goal is to offer our customers the savings of long-term commitments or reserved instances, but the flexibility of on-demand. So this is how we do it. Shreyas, do you want to dive into the prediction model and the commitment transfers, as we've really spent a lot of time there, put a lot of effort into the prediction model, and I think it's something that differentiates Antimetal from everyone else in the space and from other people building on top of AWS, is this prediction model, how we're able to make our recommendations, forecast your spend accurately, and really de-risk these commitments.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you guys saw a picture of our product on that previous slide. It looks pretty simple, but all the complicated stuff is what's here on this slide. So on the prediction model, pretty much what we do is, we leverage our, AI model to basically look at your usage across a variety of services, right now EC2 and RDS, and forecast where it's going. Basically what we're doing is learning your usage patterns, following those along, and forecasting how is your usage going to change over, the next 5, 30, 60, 90 days. And obviously with those, as we get further out, we're taking larger bounds into account, how much forecasting error there might be. But the basic idea there is we look at your usage, look at the resources you're running, study the behavior over, a couple of weeks, couple of months, oftentimes up to a year. And then based on that, we'll forecast how are your resources going to change? How is your usage going to change? And downstream of that, we make recommendations. So just to provide more color here, why use AI here? This sounds like, simple linear regression. The basic idea here is we're learning trends and building those into the model. So you can imagine some situations like Black Friday and Christmas are coming around the corner. And if you're an e-commerce company, you're probably going to be scaling up your EC2 instances that host your website sometime soon. And in that case, this might be prolonged for like 1-2 months, but in reality, you don't want this to happen where you're going to roll into a 3-year commitment for usage that's only there for 2 months or 3 months. So in those cases, we kind of learn your behavior, understand your business, and take those into account when we're making our forecasts. The second thing is, basically, I mean, I'll get a bit more into this when we talk about the commitment transfers, but understanding the risk of the recommendations we're making. So when you're making a RI recommendation or an SP recommendation, you always have to think about there's kind of an asymmetric risk here in that you can save a lot of money by buying these commitments, but if they go underutilized, you can also lose a lot of money. So the idea is making sure that we have a very stable baseline and that our model can understand where is your spend going, what is really stable, what makes sense to cover, what doesn't make sense to cover, and then make recommendations from there. So the prediction model is where everything starts, and by getting this right, we can make really, really solid recommendations into what commitments you should get and how you can maximize savings. The second part here is the frictionless commitment transfer. So the idea here is an RI is generally a 1 or 3 year commitment. But what we at Antimetal have done is effectively, simplest way to say it is try to become sort of a market maker. So what we have here is, when we make RI suggestions, there is an RI marketplace that AWS supports and where you can list your RIs for sale. And what we're basically doing here is we have a variety of customers, some of which are buying RIs, some of whom are selling RIs, and we were basically matching those two things together. So let's say customer B wants to get rid of an RI, or customer A wants to get rid of an RI, and customer B wants to buy it. We'll facilitate that transaction. And the fact is, we have information on both the buy and sell side of the market to match those two players together. So, like this graph is showing here, we can buy a 3-year RI, and let's say company one used it for 6 months. They turn off that instance and say, hey, we don't need it anymore. What we can do is go into our customer pool and say, all right, who here needs that RI, or who here could benefit from that RI? Facilitate that transaction, and now it goes to company two. Company one is no longer stuck holding that RI and paying for it. Company two now has the RI, and they're getting the benefits of the savings. So in this sense, you can effectively get what is a 3-year RI discount for a much shorter time frame. And the way we like to frame this is, the savings are reserved instances with the flexibility of on demand. Obviously, it's not nearly as scalable as on demand, but it works quite well, and it does definitely de-risk the long-term commitment that you are making to a reserved instance or to a savings plan, particularly one that is 3 years long. The final thing here is underutilization insurance. So you can imagine in the graph in the middle here, company one buys an RI and they say we're done with it. Maybe there is no company two immediately. And in that case, what we do, we basically provide this underutilization insurance that says, hey, if we bought a reservation or a savings instrument that went underutilized and lost you some money, we will take on the risk and credit you that back until we can find a person to buy that off you or someone to transfer it to. So, in this way, what we're effectively providing is these long-term 3-year savings with extreme flexibility and facilitating that through, all of these different things on the screen here. A prediction model that's looking at your usage and making best practice recommendations. So, even the risk of you having commitment that's underutilized is very low. Second, if those commitments do go unutilized, we transfer them to someone else. And third, if there is no one to transfer to, we provide you that insurance and ensure that you guys aren't, losing money on anything that Antimetal recommended to you.
Yeah, I think something to also touch on is our connection method and what data that we have access to, what data we can see. So to connect to your account, we use an IAM policy. So you can actually connect to our account with a CloudFormation stack, which is really a one-click connection. You can use Terraform or Pulumi if you want to use an ISE, or you can actually just connect manually using the IAM console and pasting in the JSON file yourself. We allow read-only access if you want to see what our savings recommendations would be, or you can add read and write from the get-go. And in terms of what data we can see and cannot see, we cannot see any of your customer data. We cannot access anything that you're storing in your AWS account. And I think most people think we can. We really cannot. There's no data that we can access. We cannot actually make any right-sizing changes. We cannot make any changes to your infrastructure. when we're actually analyzing it to make our predictions. We're really just looking at the top level in terms of usage, utilization, and a variety of other factors that even include the liquidity on the reserved instance marketplace for a given region. So for example, in US East 1, maybe a T2 nano is much more liquid than a T2 large. And because of that, we'll make recommendations to cover your spend with T2 nanos, because that allows us a lot more flexibility on the back end when we're looking to make these commitment transfers into our, basically the brokerage we've created of our customer pool to transfer them directly or to sell them on the reserved instance marketplace. So as I mentioned at the beginning, one of our key offering and really our focus here at Antimetal is savings and getting you, the customer, the maximum savings without the risk. So just to run through the slide quickly, and then Shreyas can jump in and elucidate further. Optimization is very important for us. We use our recommendation engine to find what spend and what infrastructure should be covered with reserved instances and savings plans. And you can actually choose which ones you want to approve. So it's not like an automated process. It's not like we're going to automatically cover everything. You can pick one, you can pick two, you can pick several of them, or you can turn on autopilot, which would approve all of those recommendations immediately. So it's very custom beyond our recommendation of your account. And that's where we get into the automation portion, because you can set rules to execute recommendations in different accounts, different regions. The reason for this is, we've talked to several customers that want to turn on autopilot for their dev account, but not their prod account, or vice versa. Or maybe they want to turn on recommendations for like US East 1, but not a different region. So we want to make that as configurable as possible so that you have as much control over which recommendations get approved through Antimetal as possible. And also, when it comes to savings plans, we have similar mechanisms in place where you can choose which ones, how many, which regions, which accounts, and really drill down very granularly to offer you that flexibility on top of the recommendations across your account that we make. Anything else, Shreyas?
No, nothing super substantial on my end. Only other thing I would mention is, the dynamic and approving recommendations, you can go through them by hand. You can turn on autopilot. It's pretty much up to you how you want to interact with the Antimetal and the recommendations we provide. Oftentimes we find people manually approve for like the first week or 2 weeks, like what they're seeing, and then turn on autopilot when it makes sense.
Yeah, and we'll show you all of this later in the product demo. So if you have any questions there, we'll hopefully demonstrate that for you.
Looks like there might be a question here. I'm going to throw this up on screen for you. So I just want to make sure I understood this correctly. For an Antimetal customer who wants to sell an RI with, say, 6 months left, Antimetal has the capability to recommend another prospective buyer who is willing to buy the leftover RI capacity on the original contract. Is that the model, or are you taking care of this behind the scenes so they don't have to get involved?
Yeah, we are taking care of it behind the scenes so that you don't even have to get involved. So we have our customer pool of around 2,000 customers and growing quickly that we obviously have a visibility into that allows us to make that transfer automatically once that instance becomes underutilized and needs to be sold. So we'll transfer that basically instantly from customer A to customer B using the reserved instance marketplace on AWS to transfer it. And also just to clarify, for some people, this is a common question, is this transfer is made for $0. So there's no tax repercussions there. There's no real tax issues. It's direct transfer from one account to the next. Similarly to if we do have to sell it on the marketplace, we sell it for $0 to a customer. And we only use no upfront RIs to do this.
Thanks. Hopefully that answers the question. If it doesn't, go ahead and throw more in the chat, but I think that's a pretty good answer. I guess one more question. So a follow-up. So interesting, but it's based on observations from your customer pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's based. You go ahead, Shreyas.
So it is based on observations of the customer pool. That being said, that is, we are taking that into an account when we are making these recommendations. So, like Luke mentioned, there are certain regions where we know people are going to want RI capacity more than others, or certain instance types that are going to be more liquid. And to be fair, there are many cases where we sell RIs to third parties, not on Antimetal, for from our customers. So there are people using this marketplace. Big benefit for us is that we have, like Luke said, 2,000 plus customers that we can basically match on this market and say one person doesn't want it, one person does want it, and put them together. It's really abstracted behind the scenes. The idea is, you as customer B don't need to know who you're buying it from or that that person is an Antimetal customer. You just need to know, hey, I got an RI, and maybe the term length is a lot shorter than 3 years. Probably good for you. And you're getting the same savings that you would otherwise. So everyone kind of wins in this situation. And we are taking into account what these people are buying, selling, what their needs are when making recommendations on different accounts. So like, if there's some weird instance type that only one customer is using, we might be a bit more conservative in how we might make those recommendations or what we might tell them in terms of commitments.
Yeah, and looking at your follow up, you weren't aware that there was an RI marketplace. That's actually quite common, and also how to sell on that reserved instance marketplace is a bit complex, and can take a lot of time and energy from a team of figuring out how to sell best. Because when you're selling on the reserved instance marketplace, you can actually resize and relist reserved instances to sell faster, and so that's a process that we have fully automated and abstracted from the customer so that you don't need to do that. So we'll actually resize, relist, make those transfers on your behalf without you knowing. All you're doing is seeing the sell notification in your account, and we're just doing that on your behalf.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for answering those questions.
Awesome. Yeah. So to jump into kind of the next key offering is visibility. And obviously visibility is very important to understand what is happening in your AWS account. What is Antimetal doing? Where are costs trending? And getting an understanding of this. So for example, we'll factor in EDP discounts on savings plans and RIs into our recommendations. We have a dashboard, as you saw. We'll show you that later, where you can see the coverage, the savings instruments, the spend in your account, and also forecasting there. We include monthly, quarterly cost reports where you'll get a report of your costs. And if you have any questions there, we're happy to sit down with your team and walk you through them, show you different ways to save. Obviously, we are a product, but we're happy to help our customers, and customer support is very important for us. And then the last point is forecasting and cost predictions, which is core to what we do, is understanding where your spend is trending, how it's been in the past, but more importantly, into the future, and in making those recommendations so that you have to spend less time forecasting. You have to spend less time with spreadsheets, talking with your team, figuring out what RIs are going to buy, what savings plans are you going to buy, spending that time. Our goal is to fully automate that process for you.
On that note, can I ask a question? I was curious how often the recommendations are being made, because the reports are monthly and quarterly. So is it how often Antimetal recommend cost saving options?
Yeah, so we are actually analyzing the account every hour and making new recommendations. And we also have a manual refresh button that will allow us to manually do that. So say some of our customers make infrastructure changes and they want to get a new set of recommendations on their behalf, they can click the manual refresh button. It'll take a little bit of time, but we will generate new recommendations on their behalf.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of like this continuous optimization, even while you sleep. If something changed in your account and you didn't realize it yourself, we'll take that into account basically immediately, and hopefully make those changes. If you've made the changes yourself, you can actually speed up the process with the refresh button in the dashboard that will allow you to refresh our recommendations, and we'll see those changes reflected basically very immediately.
Gotcha.
All right, next slide. So the third key offering is FinOps management, and FinOps, I think, has become a buzzword in the space, and it really is more just understanding your AWS DevOps management with a focus on cost. And we're looking to really incorporate those same principles into what we do, the well-architected framework, understanding your account and keeping your costs low. So obviously we built in alerting, coverage alerts, cost anomaly detection to better understand when things change. Oftentimes, people do make mistakes. And so getting an alert when that happens, when something's changed in your account, can be very helpful in understanding what is the best recourse for fixing that. If there's something that we can do from the Antimetal side of things, or maybe it's something that you have to do manually in your account. So we want to provide those services to our customers. Also, just an annual AWS audit where you can sit down with a member of our team who is a FinOps specialist, break down your account, understand what's happening there, and get a better understanding of, oh, this is ways I can save on AWS even without Antimetal. So to jump to this next slide, I think obviously we do work with really anyone on AWS, and we have customers that are from weekend warriors all the way up to enterprises spending hundreds of millions on the cloud. And given this wide range, we do have kind of 3 plans. The first one is a startup plan that allows customers to use Antimetal for the first year free. And we work with these startups, and we're actually launching some new tooling around that, which we can cover towards the end, that will allow startups a lot more flexibility to really grow, change their accounts, and see savings. But many of our customers are enterprises in the space. They are companies that are doing significant spend, and we built out custom tooling around that. So if you want to use SSO, single sign-on, that's an option. We are SOC 2 certified, as I mentioned earlier, which is very important given the nature of an AWS account. Data encryption is really critical to us. We spent a lot of time on security and trying to work backwards from a first principles approach to ensure that our customers are safe and that nothing can go wrong. We regularly pen test to really just double check. Obviously, we're trying to adhere to, and we do adhere to the standards, but better safe than sorry. Automated backups to make sure that your data is safe, that the recommendations are accurate. And then EDP management, which is helpful for many companies when they're looking to save, but they have EDP commitments, making sure that we're combining those 2 factors in when we make our recommendations. And then to the other piece on this slide is the billing. I know we touched on that at the beginning, but we only bill a percentage of savings. There's no other platform fees. There's no other fees in the platform. So you can actually onboard, take a look at our recommendations. If you don't like what you see, you won't be charged and you can leave the platform. And we intentionally built this out to allow you that flexibility, to allow you the ability to, check out Antimetal, to see if you liked it. And if you don't, you can move off it, because there are tools in the space that do not. And, we're trying to really separate ourselves to be the customer first approach, and to work closely with developers to build tools that are actually helpful for them. So yeah, it's very, very simple, very straightforward. If we save you money, we bill you. If we don't save you anything, there's no fees anywhere in the platform. There's no impact to your cloud environment at all.
Your pricing structure really stands out to me. It seems like a very low risk financial way to get in and actually test your product. Are there any spend thresholds? Does everybody have access to this 10%, or do you need to have a minimum spend?
There are no spend thresholds. If you are like an enterprise doing over $1 million in spend a year, we generally do more of a custom agreement there. But really across the board, as I mentioned earlier, we work with a wide range of customers and are building out tooling for both ends of the scale, from startups to enterprises, to really be able to work with them and grow with them. So maybe it's an early stage startup. We have a product coming out the next few weeks that will really address their needs, compared to a larger scale enterprise that is already on SOC 2 that maybe prefers our current product. So our approach is really to work with the customers and not think that we know better, but to talk to them, understand their problems, and then work backwards from there with first principles.
Thanks. Got a question that just came in. You might be touching on this coming up, so feel free to defer, but what are some common mistakes people make when it comes to managing their cloud costs? So if you want, we can talk about now, or if you had a plan for this, we can hold off.
Yeah, Shreyas, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, happy to jump in. So I think it's a couple of things. I think the first is not managing them at all, and we see this a lot of times where people don't know that these options exist, and frankly, just being familiar with them and knowing what makes sense. Second is choosing the right instrument for the job. So reserved instances give you a lot of savings, though you know they are slightly less flexible than savings plans, which basically give you a spend commitment and they apply anywhere. So depending on what type of workloads you're running, trying to choose the right savings instrument for the job. So if hey, we have this workload, we're not really sure what instance type it's going to be on, might be best to get a savings plan for the short term and start saving immediately. If you say, hey, this is a job that's going to run for a long time, instance type is not likely to change, go ahead and get a reserved instance. um, on top of that, just understanding your workloads in general. If you have short-lived stuff, you should probably be using spot instances. Um, Even on services like RDS, Elasticache, Redshift, OpenSearch, there are reservations and ways for you to save, and just being aware of them. But in general, I think the main way that people fail to manage cloud costs effectively is frankly not giving it enough time or thought, and kind of taking the shortest path to saving money, and oftentimes that is not the most optimal path and potentially very risky. So, uh, a lot of times the people that we work with, it's not the fact that hey, we don't know about cloud cost optimization or don't know how to execute it on our own. It's we want a partner or a tool to help us in this journey and kind of give us best practice recommendations or insights into what makes the most sense for us and the type of workloads that we're running. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, a lot of good advice there. But yeah, feel free to add in additional questions if they didn't quite touch on it.
So here's just a quick slide with a few quotes from some of our customers. Obviously, we're growing quickly and have customers of a wide range of different services, from Politico to People Data Labs to Econosis Freight to Quarter. And those have been really helpful. Getting this customer feedback, we try to get the gritty kind, where they give us honest feedback. But it's always nice to see quotes like these where folks are telling us how Antimetal has been able to help their company save, what the benefit is, and work with them to build out the tooling. So here's just a few of the quotes. Don't want to spend too much time on that, but yeah, I think having that developer community, having the folks that use Antimetal really find the value and be advocates on our behalf has been very helpful. And it's something that we're looking to continue doing because it really keeps us grounded in what we're doing and understanding how we can provide value. So at this stage, we run through the demo. Obviously, we've had a few questions. Wanted to touch on a few of the most common ones that we get. But if anyone has questions to put in chat, that would be really helpful. And we'll jump into the demo after this. But just to touch on these really quickly, does Antimetal require any engineering? No. As I mentioned earlier, the setup is quite simple. We can set up Antimetal with a CloudFormation one-click stack, with the IAM console, with Terraform, with Pulumi. So there's a lot of different ways that you could set up Antimetal. None of them actually involve any changes to your AWS account. It's just connecting an IAM role to the existing account or accounts that you're operating with, and then we take it from there. Is Antimetal in the ISVA program? Yes, we are an AWS partner. We're in the ISVA program. We co-sell. We're in ACE, and looking to actively get more involved. And so if you have any other customers that you think could benefit from Antimetal or anything like that, we'd be happy to help. We get a lot of referrals these days from AWS themselves. And that's really been helpful because they, the AMs and the BDMs work closely with different customers on AWS, and they know their accounts extremely well. So to be able to help one of those customers save as well on AWS is great. Can I pay through my AWS account? Yes, you can. We allow customers to pay through the AWS marketplace. And when that happens, the bill is just a line item on your AWS account. Also, some people prefer to pay through Stripe. So you can connect, ACH, debit, credit, whatever you'd like to pay through Stripe on that side. So wanted to offer maximum flexibility there for customers, how they want to pay. You can also pay with startup credits or with EDP credits. So quite flexible on that. And then the last one, I know we've touched on this several times, but I think it's really important, is what level of access does Antimetal have to my AWS account? And we only have billing layer access. We cannot access any data. We do not modify your instances. We don't see your code, your network traffic, your customers' data, your data. We cannot stop or start any instances. We're just sitting on the billing layer, making optimizations there. And I think that's also been really helpful, is that, we cannot make any of these changes for customers, and that helps us build trust and a very strong security stance that customers can go to bed at night, know that nothing can go wrong. And we've really taken effort to make that happen, and taken a lot of time and energy from our dev team. Shreyas has spent a lot of work here to make sure that anything we do is from a security first principle. So that's the presentation that we had in mind. I think next would be great to give a quick demo of the product, walk you through that, show you how it works. Nothing better than seeing it in action.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for that overview. Give us an idea of your solution, and we're definitely excited to see the actual demonstration. But I just want to take a minute here and reintroduce you. I know that we've got some additional viewers. So for you just joining us, this is the Howdy Partner Show, and we're a weekly Twitch show where we bring on partners so they can demonstrate their different offerings to us. This week we have Luke Button and Shreyas Iyer. They are from Antimetal, and they're showing us how their solution can be used to cost optimize your AWS account. So really important demonstration. The other thing I'd like to let you just know is that I'm going to drop a link for a survey in the chat, and we'd appreciate it if you can give us some feedback. That helps us improve our show going forward and bring on other awesome partners like Antimetal. So yeah, with that, take us away to the demonstration.
Share my screen and let Shreyas take it from here with the product demo.
Awesome. So can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll just run you guys through the dashboard real quick and then show you guys what the onboarding looks like. So this is the dashboard here. Pretty simple. We're showing you your monthly savings, which you can toggle to yearly, lifetime savings, how much you've saved at the Antimetal since joining, and your unapproved savings, which are the recommendations. And you can see here the percentage of these in terms of your spend. Here's just a graph which effectively shows your spend and then your savings. So you can think of this as a counterfactual. What would you have spent on AWS without Antimetal, and how much did you save? And so this delta is how much you actually spent. And we show this at a variety of different intervals from 1 week all the way to 1 year. Here is pretty much the most exciting part of the product, our recommendations. What you can do here is you have a variety of different AWS accounts. You can connect them all to Antimetal. And we have, right now we support EC2 and RDS, and we'll discuss the other services we plan to support in a bit. But you'll get these recommendations which effectively tell you, hey, here is the, this case is a reserved instance. What is the reserved instance you want to buy? What region is it in? How many, and what savings will this generate to you monthly? And you can click here to review it, see the details, and approve. And when you click approve using our IAM role, we go into your AWS account and execute that purchase. Very similarly, as we mentioned, with selling reserved instances or offloading them, we might say, hey, this is looking underutilized. Here's a sell recommendation. It looks very similar. We'll just have a review sell action here. And so you can segment recommendations by the account, the service, whether it's RDS, EC2, the instance type, the region, the account, the savings. So you want to see your biggest savings opportunities at the top, you can filter by here, or even the action. And then you can also see this historical view of what was bought. And so here we have some additional features like traceability, like who actually approved this recommendation on the Antimetal platform. And sometimes it might be autopilot. If say you had autopilot enabled for a region, what was the action and what state is it in? So a buy may take 10 to 15 minutes to fully execute. So you'll see the status, hey, it's executing right now. This one is executed. And similarly with the sale. And like Luke mentioned, here is the refresh button where if you click this, take a few minutes, but it'll generate a new set of recommendations for you based on the most recent data that we have for your AWS account. And obviously, all of this data, the whole dashboard here, you can filter per account. We were obviously looking at the all account view, and you can filter per service, so just EC2 or just RDS, whatever you want. Second page here is our instances, and basically right now it's not showing anything because single account, but this is basically, you can think of it as a single pane of glass for you to see all of the infrastructure on your AWS account in one simple table. So this is showing you on-demand instances, where they're located, what the counts are, your reserved instances, and it's just an easy way for you to see what is in your AWS account, maybe understand why Antimetal is making the recommendations it is, and similarly, you'll see the same thing for RDS. Now, I know we've talked a lot about this, but autopilot is, really cool feature of our platform where you can basically automatically approve recommendations. So in this case, autopilot is already on, but you could turn it off. Or what you can do is when you turn it on, you can select from one of these different accounts. We have 5 accounts connected and the variety of different regions. So you can select, hey, I only want to approve recommendations, US East 1, US West 2, EU West 2, and EU Central 1, and any other region I want to approve by hand. So I won't click those. And then you can apply those changes and enable autopilot. And the nice thing here is if you have, settings across a variety of roles, you can use this bulk edit feature. And yeah, this is, just to be clear here, this is just for EC2. Just to go back and show you what this looks like for RDS. With RDS, there is a much larger gap in the in the savings you'll get based on the payment. So this is obviously dummy data, so this isn't filled in, but you can choose what your term is, what your payment structure is, and so oftentimes like a 3-year all upfront will have a significantly higher savings rate than a 1-year no upfront. Um, and so it works very similar to EC2, but given those choices are kind of made ad hoc as you want to approve recommendations, we just do autopilot for EC2, where we generally buy no upfront 1-year or 3-year RIs. And the last thing here is the admin page. This is all really standard. You can add additional AWS accounts, and like Luke mentioned, so we have a variety of connection methods. We give you CloudFormation. You can use the AWS CLI. You can use the IAM console. You can use Terraform. And you can see the permissions that we are adding to your account via this IAM role here. Here's just your profile. You can change your passwords, your email, your profile picture, and then you can invite your team to Antimetal. So there are a variety of different roles. There include owner, admin, a billing role, or a viewer. And so you can invite your whole DevOps team or even your finance team to Antimetal to see how much you guys are saving and what Antimetal is doing for your bottom line in terms of your cloud cost bill. And then the final thing here is to manage your billing. Like Luke mentioned, we support 2 methods. Obviously, the standard credit card bank approach through Stripe, or if you'd prefer to pay via your AWS bill, this goes to AWS Marketplace. So that's pretty much the product, little tour of the dashboard. The only other thing I'll show you guys is what does the actual onboarding look like. So pretty much what you'll do is you...
Real quick, Shreyas, I'm just wondering, what are you seeing from your customers in terms of autopilot? Are a lot of them going through and turning it on regionally, or are they just basically going on and say, I'm going to use autopilot for everything in my account?
Yeah, so it certainly depends on the customer. I would say most of them turned on for a few accounts and a few regions, but there are a select few who just say, hey, our infrastructure is pretty stable. We trust you guys. We're going to turn it on for everything. And really, it just depends on what the customer is doing, what their workloads look like, and basically what their plans are. So, we work with a lot of customers who say, hey, we have this 6-month plan where we're going to migrate off this infrastructure to this one. So we don't want you auto-approving anything. And we'll say, hey, that's fair. But yeah, we do generally, like I mentioned before, we see a lot of people just manually approve recommendations to start off with, get a feel for the platform, and then they'll turn on autopilot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. So in terms of onboarding, the way it works here is, you'll sign up, you'll put in some details, and you'll connect some of your AWS accounts. So this looks exactly like the screen I showed you before, where you select a connection method from a variety of these. And once you do that, so let me go back, you'll go to this page. this page, and what you can do is launch your savings analysis. So you'll click launch, manually moving through this as it's a demo link. But pretty much what we do here, we are analyzing all of the data on those accounts. Takes us a couple seconds, so about a 30-second wait here. But what we're doing during this time is exactly what we showed you on some of those slides in the deck. We're running that prediction model, looking at your usage at this time and some of your historical usage, understanding trends in your resource usage and what makes the most sense in terms of the commitments you should make. So this will populate in just a second, and what it's going to show you is how much can we save you, how many recommendations did we find, just a quick visual model of, hey, how much is your bill going to change by signing up with us? And then, per account and service, what is your spend right now at a monthly level, and or rather the yearly level, and how much are you going to save? And we break this down per account by service. And if those numbers look good to you, all you do is click Explore Dashboard, and you get taken to the screen that we saw before. And if you don't see significant savings here, option to reach out to us, see what we can do. But generally, with EC2, we show the recommendations for EC2 and RDS, but we'll get to this in a second, planning to add a variety of additional services here. So yeah, that's pretty much a tour of the product, a tour of our onboarding. And so it's super simple. You can connect these accounts with Antimetal. If you don't like what you see, you can get off the platform and delete the IAM role. If you do like what you see, very simple dashboard that kind of boils down the complexities of cost optimization and costs on AWS into something that's really digestible and simple and easy to use.
Awesome.
For customers who are using other saving instruments, can Antimetal still help with it?
Yes, we can. So we do take your existing savings instruments into account, and generally we like to see that our customers are already using savings instruments. It means they're on the right track. So if you are using savings plans or reserved instances, we will make recommendations around those and respect the commitments you made. We're not going to ignore those or anything. And to be clear, if you have made reservations before coming onto the platform, we won't charge you on any of the infrastructure that you have bought on your own.
Nice. And I wanted to bring this up with your onboarding, but if anybody in the audience is currently interested in moving forward with you, what's their easiest next step? What should they be doing?
Yeah, the easiest next step is you can actually onboard yourself. So if you go to antimetal.com, you can sign up, click the link in the top right corner, and connect your accounts. And conversely, if you want to speak to a member of our team, you can also just go to antimetal.com. There's a demo link in the top right corner, which you can just book directly with one of our team members to answer any additional questions you might have, to discuss ways to improve your account and anything else that you're interested in with AWS. We cover a lot in those calls, so happy to help. So those are generally the two best options. Also, if you want to reach out to Shreyas or myself, feel free to do that. I think Simon's going to share our LinkedIn accounts after this, so feel free to send us a message there. And we'll also be at reInvent in KubeCon coming up. So if you want to meet in person there, let us know. And our office is in New York, and I'm in SF. So if you're in either of those locations and want to meet up to meet the team or grab coffee or something, let us know as well.
Thanks. Yeah, lots of easy ways to get in contact and move forward. The other thing I want to share during a demonstration is that, really share with the audience, is that they shared previously with me some documentation that you can use, take a look at, so that when you're working through this process yourself, you have access to their documentation. We have a few other questions. I don't know if we've touched on this one yet, but can startups and companies that are using credits benefit from Antimetal? How's that work?
Yes, for sure. And this actually touches on our roadmap, which will be the next thing that we discuss. Sure. But you think of Antimetal as a way to extend your credits 1.5x, because generally we see 50 to 60% savings. And if you have 100K in credits, say, and you're going to be using those up in 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, and you have the remainder of the year left to be using your AWS account, you can actually onboard while you're on credits, and we'll be able to really extend that spend because you're seeing those savings across the board. Obviously, there's some people that are on credits and you're only spending 5K of that 100K in a year, it doesn't make sense. I'd say, you have other things to worry about. But for most customers that are a startup, absolutely come talk to us.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, you mentioned your roadmap, so if you want to talk about where you're headed, we can share that with the audience.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Shreyas, do you want to dive into that?
Yeah, definitely. So first thing is something Luke alluded to. We are launching an additional product quite soon here, specifically oriented towards startups. And obviously, people at different scales face different challenges when it comes to cost optimization. Generally, smaller companies, it's, how do I even do this? We don't have a dedicated DevOps or cloud person. What's kind of best practice here? And as you get bigger and bigger, it's generally more a question of, hey, this takes a lot of time. How can we automate it? And so, realizing there's that distinction there, kind of pulled this apart, and now we have, planning to launch a more startup-specific offering. If you guys are interested in that or want to learn more, feel free to reach out to Luke or I. Happy to give more information there. In addition to that, just planning to launch a variety of additional features here, just to make things easier for everyone in terms of cost optimization. So, on our roadmap are things like tagging, basically getting recommendations according to instance tags. So, you can make recommendations and say, hey, this is associated with this project, or, this tag that you use all over the place. Second thing is pretty much anomaly detection. So looking at your cost history and making judgments on, hey, does this look out of place? Is some rapid increase or rapid decrease? That's something we should alert the customer of, and then let them know. And in addition from there, adding a variety of different services in addition to EC2 and RDS, which we already support. So next on our roadmap are Elasticache and OpenSearch, and from there also looking into Fargate, Lambda via savings plans, and then also some other services like SageMaker, Media Live, etc., that have reservations of their own that we can leverage. So those are a lot of the main things coming out on the engineering side. Luke, if there's anything you want to add here, provide more color on, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say really our focus, and I know everyone likes to say this, but it's working with our customers and trying to understand their problems and incorporate those. So things like tagging, for example, is something that our customers have requested, and we're building that out. But generally, our thesis and our goal is to keep the product as simple and easy to use as possible, while maximizing savings across different AWS services. And the reason we went after EC2 initially and then RDS those are the two biggest spends really across AWS. If you look at the statistics, really across industries, most people are spending on EC2 and RDS. We're like, why don't we address those first, and then work downwards from there to address those issues. So as Shreyas mentioned, we do have a lot of things we're working on and we're building towards, and we're scaling up our team to really do that. But at no point in time is no customer, or even you listening to this call, have good feedback for us. We're going to incorporate that. We're going to take that into account and really make sure that your needs are met. And I think that's kind of one of our principles here is, how can we understand the problem, build a solution for it, and if enough people have that same problem, then it'll really become something that is valuable across the board.
Have you received feedback in the past that's directed where Antimetal's going, and how do you take that feedback in?
Yeah, so we actually receive a lot of feedback, and we go out of our way to get that. But we have basically a document within both our Slack and our kind of document hub, where we incorporate all of that feedback, and we'll go through it as a team, discuss it, try and understand how to address it. We actually did that earlier today with an issue that some of our customers had, and try to collaboratively work together to find a solution there that works, that is really going to help the customer. And I think doing that is something that's been really actually beneficial to us, because it allows us to go back to our customers, allows us to, on calls, preempt issues that people are having and come in and be like, hey, we saw this issue ahead of time. This is the solution. We've made it easy for you to do it. Similar to, our original product is selling on the marketplace was a hassle. And how can we make that a really easy thing for you? So it's just one click of the button and we do everything else. So that's kind of our approach.
Nice. And I guess along those lines, the customer obsession you're showing in terms of providing them what they need. I know that you've stressed multiple times that you only have access to the billing layer of customer accounts, but have you had customers share additional information with you so that you have a better full picture of what they're trying to do?
Yes, and this is actually something that we're looking to build out in the future as well. But we do generally jump on calls with customers and we'll ask them about what they see in their forecast, where their company is going. What spend is stable, what spend are they going to change, and just get a better understanding of the company, where they're headed, what they're doing, what their goals are, and maybe even EC2 isn't a good fit and they're using EC2, but they should be using a different service, and just understand that and try and work with them there, because we don't want to end up in a place where we have our hammer, which is Antimetal, and then everything looks like a nail.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll also mention here is, like, frankly, our customers are running their own business, and their business intelligence is going to be a lot more well informed in terms of what is their roadmap for infrastructure, how are things going to change, than anything we can predict. A lot of times, these changes, if we just studied them and looked at the usage patterns, would look like crazy black swan events that no one could have saw coming. So we have this really tight communication loop with our customers, and take a lot of their feedback into account, and also their roadmap when making recommendations for them. So someone says, hey, this huge cluster that we're running, we're actually in the process of upgrading it for a different instance type. Let's say, the new EC2 Graviton instances. We'll say, okay, we'll leave that alone. That makes sense. And then once you guys make that infrastructure change, we can talk about what cost optimization effort looks right. Because, doing the actual infra optimization at the resource level kind of takes precedence over doing anything at the commitment level or the billing layer.
That's excellent that you're in contact with your customers directly, allowing them to influence how you can benefit them going forward. So awesome. Kind of also along that line, what kind of resources do you provide during the integration onboarding process? I know that the onboarding itself is very self-help, but if partners or customers need additional help, how do you work with them?
Yeah, I mean, we generally actually prefer to onboard them on a call, just because inevitably there will be questions. I mean, they can onboard themselves, but why not jump on with a member of the team, walk you through that process, answer any questions you have, and make sure everything's set up correctly and good to go. And then mostly we invite you to a shared Slack channel, or if email's what you prefer, or text, we do that as well. And that just allows us from that point on to be in close communication with a customer. Generally, we see them improving recommendations within the week after connecting their account. So from that point on, we're following up with monthly reports, jump on a call, and just making sure that they are taken care of, and really seeing the value from the service that we want to provide.
Thanks. Excuse me. Another thought I had is that we have a lot of cost alerting on the AWS side. I'm wondering if you have additional tools on your side that can be used to kind of automate that cost alerting.
Yeah, so that kind of goes into the anomaly detection stuff we're building out right now. There's certainly like really good cost alerting tools on AWS. But, a lot of times you have to configure them, and part of our anomaly detection system is, pushing people to utilize those resources. Frankly, like it's just like how a lot of our customers, when we tell them about RAs and savings plans, it's not a, hey, this is a tool that can help me. It's like, wow, I didn't know this existed. And so in a similar vein, our approach is to not, take that, AWS provides really great cost optimization resources. Our job is not to replace those or try to move you away from them. You can think of us as a tool that kind of multiplies that effect. So we're doing a lot more than just providing the recommendations. We're providing explainability, giving anomalies that are a bit more specific into what resources, what possible actions could you take, and gel really well with AWS's existing services. In fact, as we think through this anomaly detection stuff, a lot of what we're thinking about is how do we integrate with those services that already exist, and kind of add some value on top that the customer can see in terms of taking action. Because I think personally, one problem I've had as a DevOps engineer when it comes to cost optimization is you'll get an alert, and then you'll scratch your head and think, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't really know what happened. And then there's a lot of digging and looking through logs or looking through whatever it might be, CloudWatch, and seeing what really went wrong. And so we kind of want to bridge that gap between, okay, here's the alert, and here's the recommended action. And I think that's more where our focus is aligned.
Nice. And for those of you in the audience, as you heard Shreyas say, you have difficulties at times as a developer. So we're kind of also wondering what kind of challenges you faced when you've been trying to optimize the cloud. So I'm going to throw a question up on the screen, and if you want to just drop your answers in the chat, then we can discuss that as well while we have our experts available. Yeah, so if you had any challenges, we'd love to hear about them so we can discuss them, and maybe Shreyas and Luke can offer some suggestions about how we can get around those. If any of those come up, then we'll go ahead and talk about them. But in the meantime, did either of you have anything else you'd like to share with our audience while we still have you?
Yeah, I mean, in general, we'd love to talk to you. And you know, we're always open to chatting with you if you're interested in learning more about Antimetal, the team, the product, our services we offer, anything else. Yeah, we'd love to get on the phone and talk, or call, or, you know, if you're in New York or SF, a coffee. Always helpful to meet folks that are interested in Antimetal or on AWS and have problems, and just, you know, build it out to understand the space more. And you know, hopefully we can do another one of these again fairly soon. And it was great sharing with you our product. And if you want to stay tuned to our product roadmap, you could sign up for the product or let us know, and connect with us on LinkedIn, as we share a lot of different updates there in terms of, you know, the more boring things like how we've changed stuff on the back end in our change log to, you know, new product announcements, updates, etc. So yeah, excited to have all of you following along with Antimetal. And if anyone wants to jump on board, happy to chat, make that happen, and get it set up. You know, the process for getting set up really takes 2 minutes. Obviously, it's a little bit longer for you to, you know, feel comfortable sometimes to approve those recommendations, but it's really that simple. It's a 15-minute call or 2 minutes of your time to make that happen. So yeah, it's you know, we've done a lot of work to make the process seamless, and it's great to see people using Antimetal, but we're always open to feedback, always open to meeting new people or sharing more about the product.
Awesome. Well, we definitely appreciate you guys coming in today and sharing your solution with us. We love talking about cost optimization, helping our partners and customers save money. So yeah, hopefully some of you in the audience will be able to take advantage of their service and work with them and reduce your spend a little bit. With that said, I'd like to introduce and invite you to next week's show, where we'll be talking with Preview 3D, and we'll see you next week on Wednesday between 2 and 4 p.m. Pacific time. But as it is, I'd just like to thank you guys again for coming in, and good luck with the future.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Simon and Pyone, and thank you for everyone that took the time to listen to us. Appreciate you for coming.
Yep. Thanks everyone in the audience, and thanks for the interaction. We appreciate it, and hope everyone else has a good week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.